have you here.
All right. Well, I'm really happy to be here. This is terrific. And thank all of you for being here now. I know it's the third day of the summit and it's Saturday morning, which may or may not be your favorite time to show up and do anything, but I'm very excited to be talking all about video. And in particular, I'm going to do a more or less deep dive into live video and live streaming. And part of the reason for doing that is because in the world that we live in right now, guess what? This has sort of landed in our laps. I mean, here we are, every one of us in this moment, we are using live video. And whether you wanted to or not, whether you ever thought about, oh my gosh, I would love to do video someday, or you thought, I'm never going to do video ever. I'll bet you've been on Zoom calls. I'll bet you in the last few months, you found yourself meeting with people, talking to clients, going to networking meetings, going to a live summit like this. And all of this is being facilitated through this technology, through the technology of live video. And so I'm super excited. I see this as a giant, fantastic opportunity for all of us entrepreneurs. And this is really why I want to be here today and share as much as I can in the hour that I have with you guys so that you can really start thinking about taking advantage of what I believe is a great, great opportunity. Because the people right now who are brave and start speaking and spreading your message using live video, you're going to be the ones who are going to be remembered when we are in the future and things go to whatever the new normal turns out to be. So that's just a little intro of sort of what I would like to do today. And I'm going to give you an introduction of sort of describing, I believe, what the world looks like that we live in. And then I want to dive in and I'm going to basically go over three main concepts, three things that if you decide to do live streaming or if you're doing live video now already, here are the three things that you really want to keep in mind that will just basically up-level the way that you present yourself and the way that you present your message. So a little bit of logistics. When I finish at noontime, I will be going into my booth, my Zoom room. So if I don't have time at the end to answer questions that you have in the chat, and I'm going to try and give some time to do that, if I don't get to them, you can join me in my Zoom room at the virtual booth area. And I will be there for a full hour following this presentation. So you can follow up with me and ask me any questions that you have. And I'd be totally happy to talk to any one of you at length for anything that's coming up for you or what you're sort of curious about, like how are you using video or how are you thinking about doing it. So if something that I'm saying strikes a light bulb in your head and you'd like to talk about it in more detail, join me at the end of the presentation in the virtual booth. So yeah, with that, I'm going to start. Actually, I'm going to tell a story about something that happened to me. And I'm not sure, but I think this actually happened when I was coming down to Haley's event in North Carolina. And I was flying. This is like in the old world when you could get on a plane and fly somewhere and go to a conference that actually was in person. So I was coming down to North Carolina and I do the normal thing. I was flying on JetBlue and I booked my flight. And when you do this, of course, you can pick your seat ahead of time. And I always pick the aisle seat. I'm an aisle seat kind of person. And when I got on the plane, I sat down in my seat and next to me, and in JetBlue, you only have like the aisle seat and the window seat. There's no seat in the middle. And so the person next to me was this young woman. And she was sitting there and she had her iPad out. She had her earbuds in her ears. And she was completely focused on her iPad. And for the whole flight, she basically totally ignored me. And I'm the kind of person that generally likes to have a conversation with the person I'm with. But I thought, well, this is a young woman. She's going to think I'm trying to hit on her if I try and barge in and open a conversation. So I just kind of let it go. And I didn't really think too much about it. This is really common to the world that we live in. And so the flight went, I went to the event. And then when it was all over, a couple of days later, I got back on the plane down in North Carolina. I picked my seat ahead of time. I went down the aisle, sat down, and guess what? It was the same woman. And of course, what happened was when I first arrived at the chair, she looked up this time and our eyes met and we both started laughing. And then we both started talking. And I found out all these things about her, like she was a college student and she was going to college in Boston. And she had been down in North Carolina visiting her sister for the weekend. And she was an accounting student. And I told her, wow, you know, like you're never gonna have to worry about getting a job because everybody needs an accountant. So we got to know each other and I learned all these things about her that I never, ever would have learned. And here's the takeaway from this. The reason that that happened, the reason that she was able in the second visit to talk to me was because I had become a familiar face. In fact, in the context of an airplane flight, I was the only familiar face of all the other people on the plane. I was the only person on the plane that she would recognize. Everybody else was a complete stranger. And my point in sharing this particular story is that the world as we know it is full of strangers. And as we try to approach them online, they're doing just what she was doing. They've got their social media out and they've got their earbuds in and they're looking at their phone or whatever mobile device they have. And they're focused on their own thing. And they're not paying attention to you. You're a stranger. But when you can become a familiar face, this is when they'll open up. And I just want to point out that it's not hard to become familiar. Like in the context of this plane ride, it was super simple. All I had to do was get on the plane twice. Now, it was a coincidence that I ran into this person 2 times like that, but it made us familiar. So if you do something simple, like you get out your laptop and you pull out your phone and you show up doing live video, you too can become familiar. And people will start to notice you and they'll start to realize that maybe you're somebody who's worth listening to. And if you are saying things in your presentation, when you go live, and you're saying things that matter, that really matter, and you're speaking to people who care about the same things that you do, you will become this familiar face. And this is not difficult. It doesn't cost anything. Like right now, we're all using live video. It's not costing any of us anything. Well, of course, you paid to get in here, but this is the medium itself is something that we all have available to us. You either have a phone or you have a laptop and you have an internet connection, and all of that is available to you. And you can start live streaming to the audience of your choice and become the familiar face to the people who you want to speak to. And this is the real key. So I'd like you to imagine that, you know, the pandemic is over and we are now in the time of the new normal. And we are at this moment in time when all things are sort of in the future and people are able to meet in the real world. And so you go out and you don't have to wear a mask anymore. And you're doing something like you're picking your kid up at school, or maybe you're dropping them off, or maybe you're going to your favorite cafe. And when you do this, somebody you've never seen before, somebody who's a stranger to you, will come running over and go, hey, I love your videos. You're the person who's been on Facebook or on Instagram, and you've been doing all these great videos, and I love what you're talking about. Thank you so much. And this is a super popular or super possible future for you. This is something that if you start showing up now for your audience and you talk about things that matter to them, and you talk about things that they really care about, they're going to remember you, they're going to appreciate you, and for whatever you're doing in your business, they're going to want to come and work with you. They're going to want to come and do your thing. They're going to feel like they know you. They're going to feel like they trust you. They're going to feel like you're a familiar friend. And whatever entrepreneurial thing you feel like you have to do, all of the selling will have already been done. 85, 90% of the selling will already have been done for you. So in the previous world, like 6 months ago, in terms of human behavior online, 80% of the consumption of the social media content, all the content marketing that's out there, the blog posts, the text posts, the video posts, the YouTube videos, all that stuff, 80% of the stuff that's consumed was video. And when it comes to doing things that are more like a conversation, a live video on a platform like whether it's LinkedIn or live on YouTube or live on Facebook, live on Instagram, all these places you can go live, a live video is going to get 1,200% greater engagement than all the text posts and the picture posts combined. 1,200% more. So this begs the question that if you are focusing on how do I get my business visible, how do I go online and reach my audience and spread my message to the people who I want to be talking to, how do I do that? And you're not doing video. The question is, how are people going to find you? Because those statistics that I'm quoting are from the pre-pandemic world. And in the current world, those statistics are greater because the only way that we can interact right now at scale with any kind of great numbers is in the virtual realm. So the only way that people are talking and speaking and interacting and having conversations in any kind of numbers is virtually. And so you really want to enter that kind of domain. You want to enter that realm and be one of the people who is leading the conversation. So I'll just pause for a moment and realize that a lot of people regard video as something really hard to do. And folks, you know, like, tell me if you think that video will take too much time, put a number 1 in the chat. Let's just get a few votes here. Everyone who thinks video takes too much time, just write in 1. And if you think that video is just too expensive, that you have to buy a bunch of fancy equipment and gear to do it, write 2. And if you are one of these people who is afraid of the technology, which is totally normal, and you think video is too complicated and it's too daunting and the technical part is just too hard to figure out, and that's why you may not want to do it, go ahead and type in number 3. And the last one is, if you feel like you're one of these people who has a face for radio and you just don't think that you're going to be good on video, that would be number 4. And so pick your number, and you can pick more than one. If you think all of those, if you think, oh no, it takes too much time, it's too expensive, it's way too daunting, and yes, I'd rather do a podcast, you can write 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want to spend a moment to kind of try to disprove those things. And I'm just glancing at the chat here. I used to be a 3, but I decided instead to be an overcomer and figured out, all right, awesome, way to go, Anne. And Wendy says, I love video. So terrific, I'm with you. It is easier. And Beth says, I decided just to put myself out there. And Marilyn says, I love video, this is great, you guys are awesome. So for the people who may not be together with you 3, let's do an activity together. This is really quick. And it should be fun. And I won't be able to hear you all, but you can do this with me. And this is something I actually learned from Jack Canfield. This is a really quick thing. So the next time that you have to get on a video conference call, or you have to get in a meeting, or you have to do a presentation, or you're doing a live stream, or any reason at all that you're getting in front of the camera, before you go live and before you hit record, you can do this little exercise and it will help you out. It will help you be more present in your moment of actually speaking to the camera. So the way this works is that you take your 2 fingers and you put them together like this. And with me, we're going to say these things. You go, everybody do this, hold your hands up, I can see you. We go, oh, do this with me, oh, the heck with it. Go and do it anyway. So that, if you do that and you make yourself laugh, you're going to show up with a little lighter energy, which is kind of the way you want to be when you're showing up live. And I really want to show you how you can very simply show up, hit record, go live, say whatever it is that you want to be saying to people. Say things that really matter, things that you believe in. Say them to the people who you want to be speaking to. Say things that matter to them, that they care about. And you will become the familiar face, you will become the trusted authority, you will become the go-to person for the group of people who you want to get together with. So here are the 3 things. Here are the 3 main pieces that you want to be paying attention to whenever you're doing any kind of video. If you can remember these 3 things, you will be elevating your game and you will be able to go forward with this kind of medium and be more effective with the way that you present. Because live video is, the great thing about it is that when you go live, the only time it takes to do your live video is the time it takes to speak to the camera. When you're finished, you're done. You don't have to edit your video. You don't have to upload your video. There's nothing else to do. You have posted your video, and so the time efficiency of it is completely a presentation where you go and then you're finished. So you can talk for 10 minutes, you can talk for half an hour, and then you're done. So compared to other forms of content marketing, it probably takes less time, or certainly equal or less than anything else you could imagine doing in terms of any other form of marketing you might choose to do. And all you need to do, the simplest form is with your phone. So if you open up your favorite app, even like go to LinkedIn, open up LinkedIn, hit the little camera on the post icon, start talking to your phone. When you're done, that will immediately appear as a post and your video is done. And that's it. It couldn't be any easier. And you can do this as often as you want. You can do it at different times of the day. You can do it with a friend. You can talk to people who are far across the country who are just like you, and you can help them solve problems. And this is the strategy that you want to do. However, the first thing that you want to think about is your audience. And the three main points that I'm referencing is that you have your audience, you have attention, and you have appearance. These are the three main things. So when it comes to audience, I'm going to share another little story that is something that happened to me. This was quite a while ago, but this taught me pretty much everything I needed to know about my audience, about anyone who I wanted to speak to. And this happened at a time when I was moving from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I had been living in the Seattle area, and I had chosen to move to Boston. And this is kind of this Northwest culture moving to the Northeast culture. And these two cultures are not the same. And when I moved to the Northeast, I didn't entirely understand how radically different they were. And when I first got here, I decided to go and check out the East Coast beaches. And so I drove from Boston down to Cape Cod, and I was looking around for the beach and came to a town called Woods Hole. And I literally couldn't. I said, well, where? There's a beach here somewhere. I didn't know exactly where it is. And I saw this guy walking along the side of the road. And I go like, he looks like a local guy. I pulled over, put down the window of the car, leaned out of the car and said, hey man, do you live around here? And he looked up at me and he said, what's it matter? And I was kind of like, oh no, I'm not in the Northwest anymore. And it's like, this is the local greeting. Like, this is what people do when you greet them. And I'm not used to this custom. And, you know, it took a while for me to warm up to this, or for this guy to warm up to me. And he did actually warm up, and he did tell me where the beach was. But he represents basically the perfect icon to who you would be wanting to look at when you get in front of the camera and you do a video to any people in your audience. They're all sitting there. They're like the woman on the plane. They got the earbuds in, they're looking at their thing. Maybe they have their arms crossed. They're ignoring you. And if they do happen to notice you, if they do happen to stop on the scroll, they're looking up and go, what's this matter? What does this matter to me? Why do I care? Why should I watch this? And so when you first start your video, you want to be really clear of why it matters to them. And so the first thing that you want to be doing whenever you're making a video is you want to do that. You want to make it super clear. I'm here today and I'm going to do this thing, and this is why it matters to you. And if you start there, the ability to actually have people stop and pay attention to you will increase greatly. And you'll have a much different kind of response than anything else you might want to do. So the second thing is attention. And this is another piece where in this world that we live in, especially now, it's extremely hard to get people's attention because everybody's busy, no one has time. All of us have our own different kind of focus. And actually getting someone's attention is a huge gift. If they're giving you their attention, it's this huge thing that they're doing for you. And so being able to capture that attention, being able to have someone take the time to pay attention to anything that you're doing is really worth the effort. And there are definitely things that you can do that will help that out. And there's a lot of things that people are mostly doing when they go to make video or when they're doing any kind of content marketing that really doesn't work to capture attention. And probably the biggest mistake that I see that people are doing is that They're constantly teaching, and they're doing how-to content. Now, there's nothing wrong with this as a thing that is helpful and valuable, but it is not going to get attention. It's not going to get anybody to stop and go, oh my gosh, I have to pay attention to this. And the reason for that is how-to content, information, we live in the information age. So if the information was the cure-all, we have it. Like, you can get onto Google and you can find the answer to any question that you want to. So if you want to learn how to lose 20 pounds, you can Google it and you'll get a gazillion bunch of answers to that question. If you want to learn how to, talk to your teenager, you can Google that. And there's a whole bunch of information. And, whatever thing that you want to bring to, like, okay, here's the problem that I have, how do I solve it? The information is there. And so if the information was working for us, we'd all be rich, we'd all be successful, we'd all be beautiful, we'd all be, at the perfect health that we wanted to be, etc. We all have a happy family and happy relationships, and the world would be a happy place. And of course, that's not the reality. So just information isn't enough. And if you come to the marketplace and you come to the content marketing place and all you're doing is offering new information, it doesn't really matter. Like, whatever problem you're solving, there's many, many people who have another version of a solution that's similar information. So your information isn't going to stand out on its own. So the question becomes, okay, so if information isn't enough, what in the world do we do? And my approach to this is that you want to challenge people's beliefs. You want to do something provocative. And I call this myth busting. All of the people out there who you are wanting to serve with your business, they all have a certain belief system that they've chosen to believe. And that belief system isn't necessarily the truth. It is a mythology that they have chosen to believe. And you want to come into that thought, that school of thought, and you want to challenge it. And you want to challenge it with an insight that you have that completely is this other way to think about it, this change in perspective, this insight that you have with the thing that you do that is this alternate route, this easier, better, different pathway to get to the solution that you know is possible for the people who you want to serve. So, for example, the myth that I like to talk about is the myth that I'm talking about right now, which is that everybody who's doing content marketing believes that the most powerful thing to do is to teach how-to content. And I'm saying, no, it's not the best. The best thing to do is to bust a myth. And I can show you examples of this. Like, if you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's probably, love him or hate him. He's not my favorite content marketing person, but he's a very effective content marketing person. And he never will teach how to do anything. He does other stuff. He does very provocative things. He's always talking about, how to be an entrepreneur and how to hustle and all this kind of stuff. But he doesn't do like 3 steps to success or 5 ways to do one thing or another. That's just not his method. And yet he is extremely successful and he is extremely attention-getting. And you don't have to use Gary Vaynerchuk's style to get the same kind of attention, but you can come to your audience and you can challenge popular beliefs. And then you take the next step and you say, okay, well, here's an alternate way to think about this. Here's an alternate route. And if you do that and then you tie that to your method, your way of doing things, and this is like your own path that's different than the conventional way, now you become extremely attractive because you've captured their attention, you've shifted their perspective, and now they're seeing, oh, there is another way that's actually a better way. And they know that the way, that way is your way. And the only way that they can get where they want to go is with you and your method. So that's attention. And the third thing is appearance. And when I say appearance, I don't really mean what you look like. I mean, this is part of it. What you look like when you show up is kind of important. But when I'm referring to the word appearance, I'm talking about turning your live videos into an appearance, as in when that movie comes to town, or in the olden days when a show came to town, you had this banner that said, "Now appearing on a stage near you." And this kind of thing was, okay, so it's an actual event. It's a series of something. You're actually creating a show that people will not only want to watch the video that you're making, but they'll want to watch the whole series. They'll want to keep coming back again and again, because what you're doing is creating something that is elevated beyond the normal blog post. You're actually creating a show. You're creating a reason, a journey, a narrative arc that you're taking your audience along with you, whatever that is for you, wherever you want to go. And the way to do this really well is to get super curious about something. Don't necessarily show up and say, okay, I'm going to come up and teach you all these things. It's much more like, I'm curious about exploring this path. And I want to take all you guys with me because I think this path is a wonderful journey for all of us to be on. And I want to go deep and far, and I want to take you guys with me. So imagine instead of doing the content marketing that you've been doing, you decided to create something like the Mompreneur Show. And the Mompreneur Show was you talking with a whole bunch of different mompreneurs all around the world and telling their story and their ups and downs and the different ways that they're dealing with all the different issues that they face, and on and on and on. And all of a sudden you're transforming the content marketing that you're doing into this great long exploration, this conversation, this whole bunch of inspiration, all kinds of things that can come from taking this particular path. And so you can be going out and be the one who is leading the way of, I believe that the mothers of the world make the best entrepreneurs, and I'm out to prove it. And I'm going to show examples of people who I think are just doing really great, and I'm going to show examples of people who are really struggling and how they've overcome their struggles, et cetera, like all kinds of things that you could be talking about and sharing along the way. And the people who care about that, the people who are like you, the people for who these stories really matter, they will start following you. They will start literally tuning in. They will start binge watching your content. And they'll bring their friends who are also like them. And when you're looking at doing something like this, you don't have to be thinking, oh my gosh, I want like huge numbers. I need thousands and thousands of people in order to be successful, because that is not true. I mean, honestly, every single one of you has the ability to make a video, go live, make a video, and bring 100 people to see it. Like, we all have the capability of doing that. And so even if it's 50 people, you make a video and 50 people see it. Well, if you make that video and you're following these 3 principles, that, in the beginning, you do something where you're speaking about something that really matters to the people who you're talking to, and you're challenging one of their popular misconceptions. You're challenging the conventional wisdom around the way your audience thinks, and you're showing them a new way. So you're grabbing their attention. And at the same time, you have turned this into a series so that they have reason to come back again. Well, these people will be hooked on what you're up to, and they will want to come back, and they will start sharing your video, and they will start bringing their friends. Now, when this happens with your content, basically you win the game. You will get people commenting, you will get people engaging, you will get people sharing your material. They'll be coming back for more. You will become a familiar face to that crowd. And guess what? You're going to get a bunch of new clients. You're going to get a bunch of new business. You're going to get a bunch of, new growth for whatever business that you happen to be in. And this is probably the strongest thing that you can do. Now, I'm going to mention a couple of other strategies that go along with this, which really take this method. This is really simple. Like, if this is all you did, this would be effective. This would actually work. This would do really, really well. But if you want to take it kind of to the next level, there's a few more things that you can do that will really blow this up. And that has to do with, if you are, let's say, committing to 1 time per week, you're going live and you're doing your show, you're doing your interview, you're doing your series, and you're speaking for, let's say, half an hour, and you're just doing that every week, and you do it every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. That's your time slot, or whatever particular time you choose. And you're training your audience to know that that's when you're there. And so people know that, and they start tuning in, and they start coming back, and they become an actual audience that is following the show that you're doing, this live streaming series. And you can even change from 1 month or 1 quarter of the year to the next in terms of, for this season, we're going to focus on this theme. And then you can move from that season to another season and focus on a new theme. So it's not always the same kind of thing. And you'll have a group of people who are going, yes, I want to follow this theme. I'm going to follow this season. I'm going to tune in to find out what happens next, because I want to see where this theme goes. These are all ways to really engage your audience and really hold their attention. And, it's not enough to just do something crazy at the beginning to grab attention. You want to do these things to keep people watching to the end, and to basically binge watch all the material that you put out there. These are the kind of goals that you can do. Now, the way that you can support this behavior, support your audience doing this, is that you can take the original content and you can repurpose it in a whole bunch of ways. So with a half an hour long video, you now have all this content, 1 minute clips, like 1 minute where you said something really interesting, or 2 minutes where your guest said something really, really interesting. You can go back and forth between, these kind of clips, and with a 30-minute video, you're going to have 3, 4, 5 little short clips that are teasers for the full episode. And you can take these and turn them into short, social media friendly posts, video posts. And you can turn them into like square format with a big title at the top and captions running at the bottom, so people can watch them without the sound. And they can be posted on LinkedIn, and they can post Instagram. You can post them on, you can turn it into an Instagram story. You can put it on Facebook. You can turn it into a YouTube video. You can take that YouTube video and embed it on your blog post. You can transcribe the whole video and turn that into a written text version of your blog post. Then you can send out to your email and go, hey, I made this video for you guys. Go watch it over here on my blog. And so now, after doing one piece of content, one time per week, you have the ability, if you choose to, show up all over the place on multiple channels, multiple times per week. And I just want to stress that you don't have to do all of that. You can hand off the repurposing part to either a virtual assistant or a video editor very inexpensively, and they will handle this for you. And I'll just give you an example of one of the clients that I've been working with. Her name is Carrie Clark, and Carrie is a speech therapist. And when Carrie came to me, there were two things going on with her. One was that she was super busy. She has two little boys, and at the time that we started working together, I think her youngest was probably only 8 months. So Carrie had her own business, but she really didn't have time to devote to doing a lot of content marketing. And her business was that she was a coach for other speech therapists. So what she was doing was that she was teaching other therapists curriculum and training and materials that they could use in their own teaching. And what she wanted to do when we first started working was she wanted to create her own show, which she called the Speechy Show. And every week, all she did was she got a guest who was another therapist. And they came on and they would talk about one thing, like how to teach the sound of R to a 5-year-old. And they would lead that lesson together. And week after week, because that was being done on Facebook, these were Facebook Lives, the guest would share the video with their audience, which would be a whole bunch of other new speech therapists. So her audience grew week after week with this show, with this series, with this live streaming presentation. And within about 3 to 4 months, she was getting consistently anywhere between 3,000 up to 10,000 people watching each time she went live, which was phenomenal. And of course, she did just what I was describing. When these videos were done, she would hand it off to her team, who would take that video, put it on YouTube, embed it on her blog post, send it to her email list, post short clips on social media, which was promoting people coming back to the whole episode. And she was starting to show up in multiple places. She would get another 2,000 to 3,000 views on a YouTube channel. Now her business, her product was a membership site. And it was just $25 a month. You could join her membership and get access to training and curriculum in speech therapy. And so a whole bunch of speech therapists and a bunch of parents started joining. And right now, this has become super successful. Carrie is earning between $35,000 to $40,000 each month on a membership site. It's super successful. And I just want to say that this was somebody who didn't have a lot of time to do this. And yet, we created together a system by which she could pull this off, literally spending 1/2 hour a week. And I really want to stress how simple it was for her to do this. When she started, she posted one invitation on a Facebook group that was a speech therapy Facebook group, saying, hey, I'm doing a new show. Who out there would like to be interviewed by me? And with that one invitation, she got about 6 months worth of guests lined up. And she was scheduled like on into the future. And then she just started doing these regular weekly 1/2 hour long live streams. and talking to people who she wanted to meet and the networking possibilities that came from that, and talking to her people, solving their problem, solving the problem of, here's a bunch of therapists who are really busy, they're overworked, they're basically underpaid, they can't afford to go to a conference, or their school won't support them to go to a professional development training, but they really need professional development training. So she had this very, very valuable set of curriculum and a very affordable price that was a perfect solution for thousands of speech therapists across the country. And she's now in this position of being like the Oprah of speech therapy in North America. And the cool thing that I just noticed, like, I just got a copy of Pat Flynn's book called Superfans, which is a great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And in the book, he mentions Carrie. And I was like, oh my gosh, look, Carrie's in Pat's book. So, you know, you just never know what will happen and where you'll be able to show up when you start doing something like this and start literally putting yourself out and putting your message out in this way into the world. So I'm just going to check in and take a look at some of these comments. You guys are giving some really great comments. Anne says, you just blew my mind. I'm already doing a once-a-week video, but I never thought about how that one piece of content could be used in so many ways. Right, and I think I'm a big Pat Flynn fan too. Elizabeth says, be clear on why your video matters to your audience. Introduce yourself. I'm going to do this thing and why, this is why it matters. I love this. Have an attention grabber. Right, challenge people's beliefs. Myth busting. Absolutely. And consistency is key. That's right. So yeah, let's speak to that for just a moment. That's a really good point. This is probably the biggest error that people make when they start doing live streaming, is that they stop being consistent. They'll do kind of random times, or they'll go live for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then they'll take a break. And this is just a big mistake. You just have to, whatever it is for you, whatever will work for your schedule, you just have to commit to something that is consistent. So I recommend once a week. So, commit to, like, I'm going to do my major piece of content. I'm going to do my live streaming show 1 time per week. And for myself right now, I have sort of upped my game recently. And so I'm doing my show, which I call Face the Camera. It's a live streaming series. And I'm going live 2 times per week. And I just, because I've been doing this, because I've been doing that show, I just attracted the attention from this woman who works with a company called Restream, which does all this multicasting. It's this multicasting software, which I think is really cool. It allows you to multicast. Like, I can go live and I can stream to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube all at the same time. I can even go live on Instagram all at the same time, simultaneously. It's a fabulous tool. So this woman from Restream just approached me, and they want to not only sponsor the show that I'm doing, but they actually want me to create a whole show that is for them, that will go on their channel. So now I'm going to be doing 3 shows, 3 episodes per week, starting in October. And so that's where I'm at. And I don't highly recommend that, and it's certainly not the place to start, but 1 time a week that people will know that you're going to be there, whatever that time is for you. And then whatever you need to do, show up, like, be there. Be there for the people who you want to serve. And this is probably the best thing that you can do. If people start believing that you are there for them and they can count on you, this is just a fabulous relationship to have to people. And I can't emphasize more that so much right now, the opportunity that we all have to do this, because first of all, really literally, we're all kind of starving for social interaction. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting enough interactive stuff. Like, it's just not happening. I can't go to my local cafe and just hang out unless, I mean, there are outdoor areas where I can go. But even if I do that, like, you know, when I go out on, I ride on my local bike trail every single day. And when I go by people on the bike trail, you know, they look at me like this. or there's runners who are running along, and when they get close to you, they immediately they put their mask on, you know, anytime they get close. This is sort of the world that we're living in right now. And so there's this total stiff arm distancing happening. And so we can break through that through this medium. We can be the ones who are showing up consistently week after week and breaking through to serve the people who we know are out there needing what we have, needing the thing that we're here to help with. You know, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, there are people who want to hear from you. You're exactly the right person for them. You're exactly the right person. And so for you guys who already say that, I love video, do it more often. Turn your thing into a show. And this is something like in the last period of time, like in the last 6 months, I've really glommed onto this whole idea of like, let's put on a show. Let's make this happen. And, you know, if you can, I have a couple of quotes that I'm going to share as I'm getting close to the end here. This first one comes from William James, and it's act as if what you do makes a difference, because it does. And this other one is from one of my favorite speakers, a woman named Rita Davenport. And the first time that I was actually live video casting this whole conference, and Rita was one of the speakers. And I believe that Rita is somewhere in her 70s, and I found her the most warm, funny, inspiring speakers of that entire event. And when she ended, this is what she had to say. She said, God is watching, so put on a good show. And like, this is the whole thing. It's like, have that spirit. Like when you get in front of the camera, when you go to your next virtual gathering, whatever that looks like for you, have the spirit of like, when I was a little kid, I lived in this house where we had an attic. And up in the attic, there was this old trunk that was filled with old clothes that I think my parents had and sort of stored away. And me and my sister and some other friends from the neighborhood used to go up in the attic and we'd pull all this old clothing, adult clothing out of the trunk, and we put it on as costume. And it was always in the spirit of, let's put on a show. And we would make up a play, and we would have characters, and we would have this little act going. And then we would go downstairs in our new costumes, and we would demand that the parents watched our show. And during that time, you know, I had no fear about doing any of this kind of thing. I learned later, and I got really sort of stage shy and camera shy, but at that age, I didn't care. And it's with that spirit that you can get in front of the camera and you can speak to your audience and literally say, okay, I'm putting on a show. I'm doing something that is special and is an exploration. And I have an audience that I want to serve and a journey that I want to take them on. And if you enter into doing any kind of marketing, any kind of presentation with that spirit, people will follow you. And as I started, you will become a familiar face. You will become a trusted face. You will become a face that people will want to follow. You will become someone who people will want to work with. And I'm just looking at the time. We still have about 7 or 8 minutes in the hour. I am going to say that, just like a lot of speakers, I have the free gift, and I also have a raffle. And so, Haley, tell me how to do the raffle.
Okay, so we can turn this into a competition, or we can get you to pick a number between 3 and 35.
Okay, I got one in mind.
Okay.
And let me just say that the thing that I'm raffling is a 4-part video training, and it's all to do with when you're going live, what are the various styles of live videos that you want to do? There's a style that you can do for engagement, and there's a style that you can do for when you're actually wanting to make your offer, and there's a style that you want to do for actually getting attention. There's 3 very distinctive ways that you can do a live stream. And so each of these videos is going in depth of like, here are the things to do, and here's the structure of your live stream. And I've actually got a printout sheet, a PDF that you can print out and literally hold in front of you when you're going live, saying, okay, I'm at step number 3 now, this is the thing to do next. It's really simple to follow, and it's super helpful to use, especially if you're just getting started with live streaming. So this is a training that I've created, and this is the prize. And my number is number 18.
Okay, let me count. 1, 2. Kelly Lloyd. Kelly, you are the winner of the prize.
Hey, congratulations.
Congrats.
And if you look in the free gift area, the thing that I have there is what I call the awesome video kit. And so one of the basic things that I think everyone can do right now is that as we're all using Zoom, as we're all doing video more and more, just as sort of the normal way to show up all over the place, one of the things you can do to stand out is just simply elevate your home studio, really simply with a few accessories. So this is the awesome video toolkit, which is simply a short video and then a list of accessories that you can get that are very inexpensive, that will really help you look and sound a whole lot better when you're doing your video. So that's free. It's just sitting there in the free gift arena. And then the last thing I'll say is that immediately following this, we have the hour-long lunch break, which there's going to be all these booths. And I am going into my booth, so any of you who want to come there and just talk to me more, ask me questions, go into more detail about any of the things that I just talked about or anything you want to talk about, I'm going to spend the next hour in that Zoom room, and you can join me.